Hey, good morning. Gabe Suarez here. So I just got done teaching the optics pistol class in Orange, Texas. You know, I told the guys it's probably this year will be the last time that we call it optics pistol because it's becoming so mainstream that it seems like we're going to go back to just calling it pistol gunfighting. I remember the era where if you went to a class in the early 1990s, um, half the people would be running revolvers, the other half would be running semi-autos, and of those semi-autos, half would be double action and half would be 1911s. And I think we've come full circle now, where if you go to any pistol class, for the most part, I'd say 75% of the folks there are going to be running some sort of optic on their pistol. So it seems kind of redundant to call it an optics pistol class. So again, if when we get into 2024, if we're all still around, probably just going to call it pistol gunfighting. So some of the things we talked about in this class is a really good group. Maybe 75% capacity, but it's typical for 2023. But they were all really good shooters. We only had I think a couple of guys where we had to give them a little bit of extra attention, but they came around really well. So interestingly enough, there were about a third of the class I think was running double action pistols, most notably CZs. There was one Langdon Beretta there that was beautiful, beautiful pistol. And we had one gentleman with a custom, I think it was a Shadow 2 CZ, kind of like the SP01 that I've got. Everybody was really impressed with the trigger. I think that the focus is starting to shift a little bit away from striker fired. I don't think striker fired is ever going to go away, but I think a lot of people are starting to rediscover the advantages of the traditional double action pistol. There was a gentleman online that coined the term TDA, traditional double action, and I'm remiss that I don't remember who that was. I think it was Todd Green. I don't know. I'll look it up and I'll definitely clarify that. I don't like to adopt other people's terms and pretend that they're mine. I think that's poor form. Happens a lot in the training industry, but I just don't like doing that. So I think it was Todd Green that came up with the term TDA, and I think it's perfect because it defines, this sort of system here where you've got, double action, single action, and a decocker. And that's kind of what I'm carrying. It's right here. This is what I'm carrying. So interesting the resurgence there. We again, we shot out to 100 yards. It was interesting. The targets that we had were small plates and then reduced sized IPSC silhouettes. So at 100 yards, we were really firing at what was a 200-yard size target. Most everybody made the hits. Everybody made the hits at 50 yards. Imagine 50-yard headshot. That's insane. That was impossible 20 years ago. But pretty much everybody did it in class. We covered a lot of material, from proactive shooting to reactive shooting on the move, and everything else. We had some very interesting questions. One was the distance at which diagonal dynamic displacement, in other words, getting off the X, where it yields the most benefit and where it starts to diminish. And so we had a discussion on that. And I believe I posted an article on the Patreon blog, and I think I added that on Facebook as well. But that's an interesting discussion. The distances at which there's going to be a transition. The farther away the adversary is, you start shifting away from purely reactive, where you have a little bit more time to respond. But it's an interesting dynamic, the time and distance continuum. Very much something that needs to be thought of. I also discussed quite a bit on the difference between train-up skills and default skills. The idea that your default skills are those things that are the most important. We agreed, and this is my position as well, that the most important default skill is being able to draw from concealment and fire an accurate shot. And it's not a difficult thing, and it's something that you can practice at home dry every day, even if life prevents you from going to the range and shooting and so on. But The other thing that I told the guys was that um, you shouldn't revolve your skill development around going to the range and firing rounds. Your skill development, and it's not as exciting, mind you, but your skill development should be based on dry practice at home, controlled environment, no ammunition, and uh, not only extensive repetitions, but also short-term, very mindful, highly focused repetitions, so that you ingrain those skills and you don't have to think about them when the time comes. That by far is the most important thing. Secondary default skills are keeping the gun running proactively and reactively, and we showed them how to do that. A method that we have that is not analytically dependent, so you don't have to look at the weapon and think about what's going on. It's all very reactive. And those two things, drawing and firing your accurate shot and then keeping the gun running, those are your default skills, and you can train them in depth at home, and then you test them. You test out the level of your dry practice development when you go to the range and shoot. But it should be all very directed practice. It's not where you take a bucket of bullets out and just shoot, like you're at the golfing range or something like that. It should be very directed, very focused training, so that you have a purpose when you go out to the range. You achieve that purpose, and then you go home. And I mentioned also not to get greedy with voluminous gunfire. Every shot you fire, you should be 100% mentally invested in it and very focused in it. Don't fire trash rounds. That means just you're out there to shoot just to shoot, mad minutes and things like that. It's the same as when you go to the gym. You don't want to have trash exercises and trash repetitions just so that you can say, I've been to the gym and I've been lifting weights. Everything is very focused, very directed, and everything has a purpose. So train with a purpose, and you'll see that in short order your skills will develop extremely well. We also talked quite a bit about the concept of strategy and tactics, that those are by far the most important things, and that your techniques and your ability to deploy those, while they are important, okay, don't get weird on me, YouTube, and say, well, Gabe doesn't think that shooting skill is important. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that your strategy and your tactics are of greater importance. And if your strategy and tactics are poorly conceived, you'll put yourself in a non-winnable situation. So that bears a good amount of consideration. That's not something that you train on the range. That's something that you train by yourself mentally, by thinking about the world that you operate in, thinking about the ground that you fight on, and so on, and developing thought processes and strategies and tactics that fit the environment that you're operating in, and then you'll be very successful. So, yeah, this was my first travel class, I believe, since 1917. Good Lord, what am I saying? Since 2017. So it's it's been a while, but we're doing this again. We've got another travel class coming up in Georgia in September. I'm not going to do a lot of these, guys. I'm to the point in my life where I like my free time. I have my own physical and writing projects and other things going on. So aside from the training that I'm doing in Arizona, in northern and southern Arizona, I'll be doing a couple, maybe 3 travel classes a year, to fun places with good friends, and just to have fun doing this stuff. So, but yeah, it was a fantastic class, and if you have interest in developing your skills as a fighter, we don't teach shooting, we teach fighting. Have a look at our page, Suarez Tactics. We have stuff going on, throughout the rest of the year. Again, it's not a lot of stuff, so if you're interested, take a look and see if you can join us. All right. Anyway, a pleasure as always.